welcome back to our life. Today we will be finishing off step 1 and transitioning into step 2. From that, we will be seeing what moments we have in step 2, so let us get into it. If OBS will like to pick up on this. There we go. And then summer ended. I'll never get tired of that view. You stood beside your moms, Lizzie and Cove, as the five of you watched the sun dip into the ocean somewhere far, far away. You like to imagine it cooling off in the water, resting itself before getting ready to shine brightly again tomorrow. That was a fun day. I didn't know they had magicians on the shopping street now. Neither did I. Oh no. We are so dull. Let's get out more. You didn't do real magic, Mom. How did you figure that one out?
Duh.
'Cause I know that's not what real magic looks like. Oh dear. Oh, Lizzie dear. There's all kinds of magic in the world. Lizzie gave Mommy a suspicious look, but didn't dispute the claim. You looked over at Cove, who hadn't said a word since you started home. He didn't look upset though, just content. You're aware he still hadn't quite warmed up to your parents. Well, you can't sit out here all night. Time to hurry home and get cooking. Who's helping with dinner? Lizzie immediately let out a groan.
Ugh.
Mom! Summer's almost over. The protest was obvious. You could practically see school on the horizon. You certainly didn't want to spend your last bits of freedom cooking dinner. You could do that another day. Please, can we play just a little longer? Mom looked down at you with a sigh, and you clasped your hands together to give your fleece some extra appeal. We'll help with dinner tomorrow. You immediately nodded in agreement, the very clever offer shifting closer to Lizzie since your parents can't possibly resist the power of you two combined.
Please.
Soon we'll have homework and reading to do. We can't work now, too. Lizzie made her case and then stomped her foot into the ground. You mimicked her, feeling that would add something to the argument. Well?
No.
Oh, come on, Pam. I can help you with dinner. Mommy leaned in for a hug, and you knew that you were very close to victory.
Okay.
Alright. But as soon as dinner's ready, you lot are coming inside. Understood? Yes, Mom. Yes, Mom. Cove dear, you're welcome to join us as well. You grinned at Cove and nudged his arm with your elbow. Cove gave a non-committal shrug to your mommy, which you took as an agreement. I have so much to do, so little time. Maybe I could still get a seashell bracelet at Tins and Trinkets. Oh, maybe the playground. Well, the fireflies would probably be coming out, right? You silently made your own plans. Lizzie had her own ideas of what she wanted to do, but what were you going to do? You glanced at Cove, considering. A strong gust of wind made you shiver. Lizzie huffed as she wrapped her arms around herself.
Rude.
Doesn't the wind know that summer's not over yet? That's all Lizzie said before abruptly turning on her heel and heading off in the direction your mothers had gone. Where are you going? I'm going to my room. I have lots to plan if I want to make the most of tomorrow. You thought this over, looking off towards the water again. Lizzie didn't wait, and before long she was disappearing off down the road. Meanwhile, Cove was going in the opposite direction, heading for the beach. You stayed with Cove. Cove gave you a smile that you couldn't help but return.
Cool.
He made a little gesture that you interpreted as follow me, and then started heading to the waves. Cove knelt down and picked up something. You quickly identified it as a smooth rock. He reared his arm back and then tossed it out into the water. You were impressed over how far he got it to go. It sailed way out to the sea. You looked for your own rock. Decided to join Cove, you searched for nearby rocks or shells that you could throw too. You found a shell that would suit your purposes, a small smell growing as you tossed it as hard as you could. It landed with a wet-sounding thunk a few feet away and slipped down into the water. When you looked over at Cove, he didn't seem to notice that his throw had been more impressive. Cove was looking down at his cast, scratching idly at the pink surface, even though you were pretty sure he couldn't feel it. His brows were furrowed, and there was a frown on his face.
It's not fair.
Not fair. I had to wear this cast for ages, and I can't even swim. How'd you get it? I was jet skiing. Cool! You beamed at him. You'd never gone jet skiing, but you'd seen others do it all the time from the shore. It looked impressive. Bless me. Carl looked a little taken aback by your outburst, but after a second, he gave a small nod. Then he continued to explain. I crashed. He gestured to his arm as if to say, and this was the result. It's hard to believe you're allowed to jet ski.
Well,
I'm not. Oh. Cove let out a huff, popping down into the sand. Can't believe summer's almost over. You sat down next to him and nodded in agreement. Regardless of the sudden topic change. I don't want to go to school. I mean, I would. I don't want to go to a new school. I think it'll be the same school you and Lizzie. My dad said something about that. Cool. You're going to like it. Everyone's super nice. You'd only been to the one school, but you were sure that his old school couldn't have been much better. Then again, you did have to make new friends, meet new teachers. It could be kind of scary. Cove shook his head, then wrapped his good arm around his knees, as he drew them close to his chest. You heard a sniffling sound, and when you took a good look at his face, you realized that his eyes were wet.
I want to go home.
I want to go home. You never had to move before, but you thought you could understand if you had to go to a new school all of a sudden, with all new people, you'd probably be dreading it too. Even though you sort of maybe understood, you weren't sure how to help. Okay, I'll see you later. Cove gave his head a small shake. No, I want to go back home. Right. Cove wanted to go back to his old home. The one that sat waiting someplace far from here. The one he would only bring up whenever he felt this sad. It had been a while since he had moved in, but he didn't seem to feel any better about being here. You settled back into the sand, trying to consider what to do. This can be your home. It's a really nice home if you give it a chance. Cove didn't respond to that. He just tightened his arm around his knee, resting his chin on them. You're not going to leave, right? You'll still be around. The question was a little surprising. Of course. Your parents would have mentioned if you were going to move or something, right? After a second, Cove gave a little nod. Once I get my cast off, we could go swimming. You were fine with him changing the subject again. Yeah, that would be fun. Cove smiled, then looked back to the waves. My dad keeps saying I'll get used to everything eventually, that I'll feel better then. It used to make me angry. I didn't want to get used to everything. He sped a glance over at Cove and saw the anger had slipped off his face in favor of something almost puzzled. But maybe that would be okay after all. As long as I really do feel better. I can see it. You could remember a long time ago when you first started going to school. You had absolutely not been okay with the idea of being taken away from your parents for most of the day, listen to strangers tell you what to do, and sit with kids you'd never met before. Things changing is hard. I'll make sure you do. Cove laughed, just a little, but you grinned, proud that you were able to drag one out of him when he was obviously feeling down. Even still, a second later, his eyes got a little misty once more. You got the feeling that they were different than from the ones from before, though. I hope next summer I'll surf and go exploring and everything will feel like it's supposed to again. You will. It will. The two of you sat quietly, just taking in the sounds of the waves. You hoped that Cove would be able to accept this place as his new home. You definitely tried to help in what ways you could. There were so many wonderful things here you probably hadn't even seen yet. Lost in thought, you started a bit when you heard a faint, familiar sound. The sound of your mom shouting your name. You looked over your shoulder, realizing it was probably time for dinner. Time had really gone by fast. You stood and dusted off the sand off of yourself. My mom's calling. It's time for dinner. You should come. Cove looked up at you, expression screaming reluctance, yet ultimately, okay. When you smiled, Cove returned one of his own. Callie, thanks.
Thanks.
It was nice. Where you were right. It was nice where you were right then. But the two of you couldn't stay there in your own little world any longer. You were being called forward. So, the both of you ran towards your house, leaving the waves and summer behind. And I'm gonna go blind for a sec. I get easy! In between! Okay, it's fine, I can read that. It's big and bold. August ended. August ended. September began. It was time to go back to school. Lizzie groaned and complained the entire first week. He hated going to classes. Still, there were interesting things to do that couldn't be done anywhere else. You weren't sure how Cove felt about it. He was enrolled that year. That was like a sign Cove would be staying in Sunset Bird for a while. At school he was alright, but he kept his distance from other kids, from what you saw anyway. Whenever he could, Cove stuck to you like glue. He didn't even mind that much what you did to pass the time, as long as it was together. That year, the divorce of Cove's parents was finalized. You ever heard your parents talking about it? Saying Cove's dad got full custody. At first you worried that meant bad news. It made Mr. Holden cry, apparently. Then you found out it meant Cove would be living with his dad. He would only stay with his mom a few weeks of the year. Cove cried too, for different reasons, he thought. It seemed like Cove and his dad might move again, but Mr. Holden decided to stay after all. Mom asked him about it once. He said he didn't want to uproot Cove's life for a second time. Mr. Holden tried to get Cove to like Sunset Bird more. He kept encouraging his son to go out and see the place. Sometimes Mr. Holden volunteered you to spend time with Cove. He seemed very confident that it was an effective strategy. Cove never talked to anyone about what happened with his parents and withdrew whenever it was brought up. It was hard for him, and nobody knew how to help. Eventually, Cove stopped crying on his own. You couldn't understand what had changed. Still, you worried about him. You could tell he wasn't completely happy. Maybe one day, he could say out loud what he felt inside. After that, it felt like things had gone back to normal, except what normal was didn't stay the same. Years passed and suddenly you were in middle school. You weren't a kid anymore. You were 13 years old. That officially made you a teen, even if your sister didn't agree. The toys and crayons that used to litter every free space in your room have been packed away somewhere, replaced by new hobbies. There were other changes too. Cove's cast got taken off. It was weird to see him without it initially. Underneath the pink plaster ended up being a long, thin scar that snaked across his forearm. Cove's chest puffed out in pride when someone drew attention to it. He also went through a major growth spurt. He was the tallest student in his class for 2 years in a row. Cove will probably hold that spot again next time. In class, people knew him for more than just being tall. He also stood out because of how well he did in gym and other athletic situations. Over the years, he began to open up more too. You saw him talking amicably with other kids or neighbors from time to time. And the only kid that came to visit the neighborhood when you were little, Shiloh, well, he was gone. He and his mom moved back south because of her work, just 1 year after Cove came to Sunset Bird. It had been really upsetting when he left. Lizzie was inconsolable for weeks, but nobody talked about Shiloh anymore. It was a really long time ago. Oh, it was a long time ago. Not really. You learned some heartbreaking things became less sad the farther away they were, even if they had never gone any better. That was sad in its own way. Things at home were different too. You still lived in the same house, and all that. But it wasn't how it was before. Ma dyed her hair purple, wanting something new, and liked it so much she kept dyeing it. You remember calling her mommy as a kid, but something like that seemed awkward nowadays. You were much too old for the word. Lizzie felt too mature for a nickname too. He insisted on everyone calling her Elizabeth, so he did. Your mom soon gave her permission to go to places other than the playground and the shopping street, which he took advantage of. You rarely saw her around the old neighborhood. In fact, she hardly spent time with you the way she did before. Elizabeth instead associated more and more with girls from school who were her own age. Maybe the difference between 13 and 15 was greater than the difference between 8 and 10. You started befriending new people yourself, like Derek Suarez. There we go, I got it. You didn't live in the neighborhood or go to the same school. What happened was his and Cove's dad struck up a business partnership a few months ago. Since then, Derek would pop up in the area now and then. It seemed Mr. Suarez was happy to let Derek tag along to his work if Derek had time for it. Without a doubt, everyone and everything around you had changed. In small and big ways. You had too. As time went by, though it was easy to settle into this new normal, then before you knew it, school was over, and summer vacation had come again. I just want to say, look at this room. It's so cute, but I also hate it. Like, I don't hate all of it. I liked the kitty bit of the room originally. But I can tell you one thing. I really don't like the orange HC thing. It just makes it a little ugly. In my opinion, anyway. I do like the white and black thing. I think that might be a pillow that looks like a sausage or something like that. I don't know. Could be a coat or it could be a sleeping bag one. I'll never know. I do like the blinds. They're like purple. And I like the color purple. I like that we can see our laundry bins full of dirty laundry. That's kind of funny. And it does appear that we might be a writer. Because there's a bunch of books that don't look school related. It also looks like we like taking photos and painting. What else can we tell? There's some goggles, but I don't know if they're for like snow or going into the water. There's an old looking radio. And the bed is not made, which is like me. So I wonder if our character makes the Beverville get into it like I do. But something we'll never know. We can only imagine, since it is our character. It was the first day of summer vacation. The sun was hot as ever, but you were inside and away from its harsh rays. To be more specific, you were wide awake and about to head out to enjoy your time off. You made sure to slather on a generous amount of sunscreen, so you didn't get burnt. You were looking in the mirror, studying the clothes you'd thrown on, when your bedroom door opened without warning. In your reflection, you saw Elizabeth raising an eyebrow. Have you been staring at yourself this whole morning? Good morning, Elizabeth. She ignored that, crossing her arms over her chest with a disgruntled expression. Clearly, she hadn't come in to see just you. Mom told me your friend is at the door. He brought some happy summer gift from Mr. Holden. Mom wants you to take it from him, say thanks or whatever.
Come on.
So come down already. I'll be there when I'm there. Elizabeth rolled her eyes and left, having done what was instructed of her. Now alone, you focused on the mirror once again. Your reflection hardly fit the frame. You were very tall. You could relate to Cove in how it felt of being unusually big. He was one of the rare fellow 13-year-olds whose height was a match for your own. You weren't sure how to feel about it. Things kept changing, but the height you actually had and what the impression of that height was based on your age, it was confusing. Then you put the finishing touches on your outfit whilst ruminating on the situation. Just as they had been, Elizabeth's words piqued your curiosity. You planned on going over to see what Cove was up to, so this played in your favor. Your reflection grinned back at you. You were looking forward to seeing him. You left your room, taking an easy time downstairs. Step 2. Second chance. You spotted Mom first, reclining on the couch. She held a magazine in her hands, which she was perusing. True. Morning, Mom. She looked up at your greeting, a smile instantly appearing on her face.
Thanks.
Good morning, Callie. Thank you for coming down. Matt's at the door with Cove. He can't stay over today, unfortunately. Why don't you go and thank him before he leaves? You nodded and made your way to the front of the house, just as she said. Matt was there making conversation. She must have heard you because she looked over her shoulder.
Oh?
Look who finally made it. Morning, sleepyhead. Matt reached forward, and you knew she was about to pat you on the head. She was taller than average for an adult woman, but you were still little in her eyes, despite being big for your own age. You let her do it. You stood by patiently and indulged your mom's wishes. She gave you two small taps on the crown of your head. You're the last one down today, you know that. I was going to stay in longer, so you're welcome. Yes, thank you for gracing us all with your presence this fine day. With a small laugh, Ma stepped aside. Grove was just as you remembered, exactly how you came to know him to be. He leaned uncomfortably to the side in your doorway, his bushy hair covered part of his face. His features were pinched in embarrassment, and he shifted from one foot to another. He was holding what must be the much talked about gift. At first glance, you figured it must be a bouquet of flowers. Then you gave it a real look. No. Instead, it was carefully cut fruit. It made a lot of sense that this was actually from Cove's dad. You had to suppress a laugh at this showing. You can't imagine many folks buying that sort of thing for their own personal enjoyment. Yet this kind of arrangement was built for the presentation, likely to impress whoever was inevitably going to receive it. It seemed no matter how long he lived here, Mr. Holden would keep going out of his way to be neighborly, and Cove would always be roped into participating. Cove smiled at the sight of you, the sting of this goofy errand, he was clearly embarrassed to be on, eased. Hey, Callie. You smiled back. It was second nature to you. Cove had always been such a close friend ever since the two of you were kids. Hey. It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you too. Your grin widened even more. Every time you came, your mood was brightened. It was already shaping up to be another long summer, with plenty of time for the two of you to have fun together. His awkwardness over the task started to creep back in, so Cove nudged the gift closer to you. He was ready to be relieved of it. And with that, the gift was accepted. I hope you and your family like this. It's a pretty good gift. I think so anyway. He smiled earnestly. Dad spent a lot of time picking out the best size and design, so there were many options to choose from. You are too cute sometimes. Callie! Just thank my dad for all this, okay? Alright. Mr. Holden's behavior was really different from any neighbor you had ever had. Though after 5 years, you were used to his antics. And since you'd made up your mind on what your opinion was, he was sort of funny. Sometimes that could be a good thing, and other times it was a bad thing. Your thoughts were quickly interrupted by a shout. There you are! You shared a confused look with Cove as both of you stepped through the open door onto the neighborhood street. It didn't take long to locate the source of the noise. You spotted Derek just a few yards down the road. He ran up to you. You were happy at the sight of him. Derek was certainly a welcome guest in your neighborhood. It was a pleasant surprise whenever he showed up. After stopping a couple steps away, Derek hunched over to catch his breath. Then he looked up with a wide grin.
Hey.
Hey, guy. And pal. I was just at your house, Cove, but no one was there. Should have figured you'd be at Callie's place. Do you ever spend time at your own home, or are you always just there? Derek laughed at his own joke. He either didn't notice the embarrassed Cove, or the embarrassment was what he was actually laughing at. Derek turned to you. He was going to say more when his eyes widened and he gasped. What's that? You followed his gaze, unsure, then you realized what he meant. You were still holding Mr. Holden's gift. This? It's like a bouquet of flowers, but made out of fruit.
Nice!
Nice! I have great timing with character lines sometimes. Can I have some? Maybe you can have some later. Derek grew more excited by your words, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Awesome! Then he nodded his head as if to clear it. Anyway, that's right. I came here because I needed to say something big. He paused, possibly for the effect. There's some other kid here in Sunset Bird. Cove was surprised, as you were by the news. Such a reaction made sense. No one around your age had moved here since Cove did 5 years ago. Were they with their family? Maybe they were coming through. Nuh-uh. The new kid was all by himself just walking. Did you talk to him?
Nope.
I came to report the siren right away. The kid had green hair, glasses, was pretty small, and seemed really upset about something. I hope he didn't leave. Suddenly you blinked. You blinked. You blinked, slowly looking over to your longtime neighbor. That sounds a lot like you, Cove, when you first got here anyway. It kinda does, doesn't it? That's weird. He sounded almost fond, a small smile playing on his lips. Derek snickered, good naturally. I can see that really well, now that you say so. But what'd you say? Let's go find Cove's lookalike. We should all meet him. I don't. Sure, I want to see who this person is. Derek grinned. Then he pointed down the street the way he came. Last I saw him, the mysterious stranger was going this direction. Nothing else needed to be said. The three of you were off, with Derek leading the way. Derek brought you to the beach, and as the trio made your way down the shore to your playground, you walked the familiar path in comfortable silence. When you were almost there, you spotted the kid in question. His bright colors almost shone like a beacon beneath the rays of sun. He scuffled around, kicking up sand as he paced. It was true, he was certainly upset. Certainly seemed upset. But you didn't think he was sad, like you had originally pictured. No, with his erratic movements and scratching up expression, he came off angry. You started to have doubts about this expedition. Maybe it'd be better if you left him alone, and let him sort himself out. Derek didn't feel the same. He waved loudly, calling out to the boy. Hey guy, over here! The kid whipped around, impressive scowl carving deeper onto his face. His eyes were tired, but strong hostile energy still radiated from him.
What?
What? What is it? What do you want? The sharp tone made Derek flinch. He shifted on his feet. What's your name? Jeremy. Was that it? No. I'm Derek, this is Callie and Cove. We were just walking around and saw you. We wanted to say hi. There aren't a lot of kids our age in the neighborhood. Yeah, so you know, it's cool to see someone else here. Strangely, Jeremy grew furious by your response. As if steam could erupt from a person's ears, it would have happened then. They did bring me somewhere stupid. Of course, I knew it. What?
My parents.
My parents. They're the ones who brought me. I didn't walk to this town. Can you not figure that out on your own?
Right.
Right, my dad brings me to Sunset Bird too when he has to come for work and all that stuff. Not that bad. That earned him a glare from Jeremy. Derek winced beneath it, glancing away. There was a struggle to remain friendly with this Jeremy guy. I mean, I wouldn't want to come here for a real vacation probably either. That's an understatement. This doesn't count as a vacation. It's a waste of time, a chore. My parents' family is nearby. We just had to come see them. Ugh! They're your parents' family. Doesn't that make them your family too?
I guess.
Yes. That's a pretty good reason to come by. Did you want to go somewhere else? No. Jeremy crossed his arms with a huff. He turned away. They should have gone by themselves since they care so much and left me at home. But I'm not allowed to be by myself. It makes no sense. They're the ones who don't know how to do anything, and I'm the kid? We just said hello. You don't have to keep complaining at us. Wow! Why did you decide to talk to me, huh? Did I ask for that? No. Did I want you to come over and start flapping your gums at me about dumb stuff? No. Now you're gonna whine that this isn't what you wanted? Too bad. It's not my job to care. Lando Cove lowering his voice. The two of you are not somewhere after all. Jeremy must have had good hearing though, because he caught the private exchange and scoffed.
Stupid.
Ugh. Of course we're not similar. My eyebrows aren't stupid. Cove's cheeks flushed crimson at the insult. You can't be sure if it was out of embarrassment or anger. Maybe both. Come on. Listen to them. They're really unique and special. Chris smiled weakly. Special because of how ridiculous they look, maybe. You lunged towards Jeremy. With your fist pulled, you made a quick step forward. He was the one who started things. You were ready to end them. You made it clear that words wouldn't work, leaving you to resort to action. You weren't sure what would happen, but you couldn't let this stand. Derek and Cove jumped in to stop you before you reached him. They each grabbed you by the arm. Still, Jeremy instinctively tumbled backward. He practically fell over. If that's all you can do about what I'm saying, just proving I'm right. You're brainless. You were annoyed the other two were against you on this, and got in the way. But the reaction you'd been able to get was still worth it. Wow, what is wrong with you? Instead of taking offense, Jeremy only parroted Derek's words in a nasally voice.
Wow, what is wrong with you?
Wow, what is wrong with you? Wow. This is dumb. Jeremy stuck out his tongue and sulked away, throwing more sand everywhere as he went. You watched him go, hunched over, until he became a speck in your vision. Silence reigned in his wake. The three of you tried to process what just happened. Can't believe it. What a mean kid. Derek wasn't kidding. And by the sound of those earlier complaints, the new boy Jeremy was going to be in the area for at least a while this summer. Derek sighed in dismay, plopping on the ground. You followed and coved it shortly after. There wasn't much else to do.
This sucks.
This sucks. I was hoping we could meet someone fun, hang out maybe. He shook his head after a moment. He slowly turned to you with a hopeful expression. But, you know what would really improve the day? What? He didn't respond. Instead, he used a hand to point right at the fruit arrangement that you were still holding. You'd completely forgotten about that during the mini drama that unfolded. You'd gotten used to the wait. Glancing over the cove, you noticed he was eyeing the fruit. You must want some too. I need to save it. Okay. He sat, still staring at the glistening fruits. But he didn't insist further. Yeah, it's a gift for the Wolf family after all. They should be the ones to get to have it. Sorry for asking. It's fine. Quiet once more descended upon your group. Poe turned towards the ocean, a peaceful expression on his face. Hey, you two remember the Land Before Time? That fruit thing makes me think of it. The dinosaurs all liked the leaves that were shaped like stars. Tree stars. Yeah. Chomping leaves looked so delicious when they did it. Eating leaves look good? Should I worry about you? He snickered. No, I'm not gonna do it for real, but I did pretend I was a long neck when I ate broccoli one time. Derek didn't say anything further about dinosaurs, or otherwise for the next few minutes, the three of you watched the waves crash onto the shore. Hey, Callie. Yeah? The two of you met eyes casually. Were you seriously gonna hit that guy? Well, he had it coming. Callie! That's so bad.
I mean...
I thought it was cool.
Ugh.
Whoa. You're both crazy people. You knew when Derek said things like that, it wasn't serious. He liked you and Carb. Yeah. Derek then leaned back on his arms, contemplated the sky with a content sigh. So, are you both ready for summer break? How is someone supposed to be ready for a break? I mean, it just feels like there's a lot to plan for. And what about you, Ko? Are you ready? I think that depends. Before you could say anything else, the only atmosphere was shattered. Hey! Callie! You glanced over your shoulder to see your sister. You strode closer and closer, appearing none too pleased. I've been looking all over for you. Matt said you and Ko ran off with the thing Mr. Holden brought for us. She leered over you with arms folded. So, where is it? It's fine and right here. You turned your body to face her and held up the bouquet, proving that it was in one piece. He inspected the fruit arrangement with a small frown.
Okay.
Alright. Looks good. But if all you're doing is stand around, you better take it back to the house now. Not just for you. She grinned, glancing at Ko who sat beside you. Even if you do have it in with the delivery boy, this was up to Mr. Holden. Poe stifled a chuckle and gave you a Man, English is so hard sometimes. Conspiratorial look. Get going. This wasn't okay just because you hadn't done anything yet. Oh no, I think I hear the mean kid coming back. We better get out of here. Elizabeth blinked, confused, and looked around. What kid? I don't see anyone. Derek didn't bother explaining. He just launched his feet and ran off. Cliff hopped too, gladly taking the opportunity to exit the situation. He followed after Derek, but he sent a look to you over his shoulder. He turned towards Elizabeth. She stared back, brow raised. You stared. You didn't make a break for her. Instead, you carefully got out of the sand, bouquet still in hand. Once you straightened up, Elizabeth smiled affectionately over you.
Come on.
Come on, fugitive. You nodded, then examined the fruit skewers. You wanted to make sure it hadn't been jostled by the short adventure you'd gone on. It still looked great. Elizabeth noticed too. You know, we could split it now and tell them those boys ate it. They bailed, so they don't get to tell the story. Moms would never need to find out. Kind of hypocritical of you, don't you think? She bumped your shoulder, winking cheekily. What else is family for? You laughed together, making your way home side by side. You and Elizabeth didn't follow through with the joke to eat everything before getting home. When the two of you returned, your mums welcomed you back. There wasn't a mention of the mini event that had unfolded. The four of you happily split the bouquet in the end. After that, Derek had rejoined you in the living room. He had to show his face again after eventually running off. The dust had settled from the prior events, and your moms went back to their room, so Derek was just taking it easy until his dad arrived. Mr. Suarez was meant to be here any minute to get Derek. Derek preferred not to sit, and instead took long lazy strides in a circle around the edge of the rug. Hands behind his back, and head angled towards the ceiling. Derek looked like he might have been puzzling out a crime. He probably made half a dozen rounds when a solid knock struck your front door. That stopped Derek in his tracks. That's it. The both of you stepped forward to the door in unison. You arrived first since you'd had a half-room head start. When you pulled it open only a crack, someone zoomed in past you. The breakneck flash of a human was still entirely recognizable. It was Derek's little brother, Nicholas Suarez. He shouted triumphantly, Derek! We're here! He was only 6, the tiniest kid around. Hot on his heels came the middle Suarez son. I don't know if it's Clary? Or something else. Nicholas, we have to stay in the car. We're going home. We're not here to play. He was 10, and his patience was being tested. The youngest one frantically shook his head, made his hair even messier than it already was. Nicholas's hair was wild and free as he was. Hair clips and his parents' minivan couldn't contain the energy, which might have been surprising considering he loved cars, enough to wear a t-shirt covered in them. But you knew Nicholas loved Derek even more. Staying right where he was inside your house, at his older brother's side, Nicholas gave Derek a hug. I came to get you. Derek bent down to scoop Nicholas in his arms in a fond squeeze, though he kept his face tilted up to make eye contact with Clary. I'm just gonna assume it's that pronunciation for the time being.
Hey.
I'll do research after recording. Hey bros! Side by side, Mr. and Mrs. Suarez trailed in. The resemblance between parents and their children were clear. Derek and Hare were the spitting image of their father. Hare was sometimes called Junior, while Nicholas was a mommy's boy.
Good evening.
Good evening, Callie.
Hello.
Hello. You'll have to forgive these 3 ring circus visiting town. The boys just had to come. Don't worry about that. You're welcome here. The frown that had been stuck on Clary's face finally eased up a little. Oh, how kind.
Goodbye.
But we can't stay. Thank you for letting Derek visit, and tell your mothers I said hello. Okay. Come on, boys. All 4 of you now. Let's give the Wolf family their house back. Coming.
Yes, Mom.
Yes, Mom. Half of the group trotted forward with only a word. They went past Mrs. Suarez and out the door. She watched them go before surveying the situation with the most troublesome one. Nicholas was just bouncing around Derek, as if he hadn't even heard his parent. Derek and his mom looked on with identical expressions of extortion-tinged affection. When a small opportunity opened up between hops, Derek carefully took hold of Nicholas's small hand. Let's go to the car, Nico. You can sit next to me. Thrilled by the promise, Nicholas let out another cheer. Yeah, let's go to the car. Miss Suarez left trusting her eldest didn't want to join Mr. Suarez and Jorge. Nicholas gripped Derek's black wristband with his free hand, stretching it outwards in eager attempt to lead his big brother along. Derek stumbled forward with a chuckle, mostly to protect his band from being pulled too far, rather than Nicholas actually having strength to move him. But he made sure not to forget you. Derek said his goodbye from over his shoulder. Bye, pal! Good night! After their prompt entrance and equally quick exit, the whole Suarez family was back on their way home. You, however, didn't have anywhere to go. It was late enough that the rest of the day would be spent inside your own house. That was a while ago now. Later that night, you found yourselves seated near the kitchen counter. Your fingers drummed on the surface as you waited, your gaze trained on the phone. You were waiting on a call tonight, specifically from your cousin Leander. You didn't want to miss it accidentally. Your uncle, aunt, and Lee used to live many hours away. Your families only saw each other a few times a year for big occasions. A while back they moved and were closer to you than ever before. You hung out regularly. With school being out, you were positive she was gonna come over a lot. The 2 of you were the same age and got along well. She was used to be really fond of Lizzie. Elizabeth, too. Knowing your sister had become allergic to interacting with her own family, and tended to be just you and Lee who spent time together. She was your only friend who was a girl. You weren't a girl yourself, so maybe that was why. You didn't really have a lot of other friends either. Maya always said that quality was more important than quantity, when Elizabeth bemoaned your small social circle. You weren't sure how friendship quality was judged, but nevertheless you thought what you had with Lee was good. Then the shrill ringtone announced an incoming call. You jumped before grabbing the receiver and pressing it to your ear. Lee, finally! Hi! Sorry about the wait, Callie. It took forever to get the phone away from my mom. That's okay. It was starting on the end as if Lee was shifting wherever she was. So can you believe school's actually over? I thought it would never be done. Now we don't have to do any of that boring stuff when we get to hang out whenever we want. Speaking of hanging out. Lee, can you wait a second? Let me just head to my room.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. You got a room you'll see at the counter. Luckily, the phone was wireless, so you didn't have to worry about any cords tying you down. Your mom's had a rule about not moving the phone unless a call was in progress, which is why you'd been sat by its cradle waiting for Lee to call. You thought it made sense. It was nice to keep everything in its proper place. But now that Lee had called, it was okay for you to go upstairs to your bedroom to talk to her. You made your way up the stairs smiling. After you arrived, you shut the bedroom door, firmly behind you. You took a seat on your bed. Alright, I'm here. Cool. Hey, did you know a girl down the street from me has her own phone now? A cell phone. She doesn't have to wait for someone else to stop using it or anything. Wow, really? The thought of someone else having a phone that was all their own seemed unbelievable to you. Right? I wish I had one too, but my parents said I couldn't get a phone until I'm all grown up. I wish they'd changed their mind. We could call each other every single day and no one would be able to stop us. How great would that be? Really great. We could even stay out late talking about whatever we want. We sighed thoughtfully down the receiver. Not into the receiver. At least I said I could have it someday. I can't wait. She sighed dramatically. I bet I'm not gonna get one until I'm all the way in college. Squeezing the phone between your shoulder and ear, you puffed up your pillows and made yourself more comfy. It was strange to think of a time when normal school would be over and you would have to choose whether or not to go to college. School was a big part of your life right now. Everything in your classes came easily to you. You soaked up information as naturally as a sponge absorbed water. You had yet to worry about school being hard for you. You had no plans on getting excellent grades this time around. You're confident your grades would remain great. You felt a lot of pressure to maintain the high grades you had last year. Your future depended on it. Yeah, you tried to sound engaged, but your mind had decided to go back to school despite the season, leaving you too well to be fooled. You sound so spacey. What's up? Just thinking about school. We groaned. Are you thinking about how we don't have to think about it because it's summer? That's what I'm doing. It's so awful. I hate going. I get what you mean. Though I guess school isn't all the way bad. You can do some good things there. You can just do more when school's out. The cafeteria lunches at my school could be better than they had any right to be. Lucky, mine's boring. Gym's pretty great though. There's all sorts of sports stuff during the gym. Oh yeah, it can be fun sometimes. But that was all. And that's pretty much everything good about school. Okay, point taken.
Alright.
Now I decree the topic of school is officially closed. We have to talk about this summer first before we start planning the rest of our lives. I've got some plans already. Ooh, tell me. I'm gonna visit my cousins. You chuckled, of course. What's something you want to do? The first thing that comes to your head. I've got some new art supplies. I can't wait to try them out. I can't wait to see what you make. You lean back in your bed, settling in, as you continue chatting with your friend. Even though it hadn't been that long since you saw her, and you'd be seeing her soon, you found plenty to talk about. For one, the events of the day, you still sat up straighter. I was with Cove and Derek today, and we met a new kid. Like at your neighborhood. His parents are visiting family. But it sounds like he'll be around a little while. I don't know how long. What's he like? Mean. He kept snapping when all we were trying to do was talk to him. He kept being rude to everyone. But especially Cove. It was awful. I don't think I want to meet him. You want a boy to stay away before even meeting him? That's an unexpected twist. Your cousin was pretty popular with boys who knew her. He seemed happy enough to have them around, until they started to annoy her. Who are you to talk? Cove and Derek are always around. They're both boys, you know. I'm not the one who invites them. They show up on their own. Lee laughed at your response, deeply amused. Even though she couldn't see, you shook your head at her, grinning to yourself. There was stomping noise approaching your room, heralding the arrival of your irritated older sister. She flung the door open, a frown etched on her face. The little adventure from earlier hadn't gotten you any goodwill this time, it seemed.
Come on.
How long are you going to hold the phone? Glancing at your watch, you realized your quick call had gone much longer than anticipated. Elizabeth held out her hand, the other one lodged on her hip. You noticed the realization on your face. Time's up. Sorry for being long. Lee, I have to go now.
Bye!
Okay, see you soon. Tell Elizabeth and your moms I said hi too. You barely pressed the end call button when Elizabeth whisked the handset from your fingers and began dialing someone new as she strode out of the room. You heard your man's voice call from downstairs. Hey, has anyone seen the phone? I'm using it. With that, you shut your door behind you. Silence was left in the wake. There was one way to end your first day of summer break. Sometime later, it gone dark, and you laid in bed wide awake. Your window rattled all of a sudden, startling you badly. You flinched, staring over at it with furrowed brows. From your vantage point, you could only see the moon and an open sky. You were curious. What had caused that noise? Cocking your head, you sat up and moved closer to the window. You wanted to get to the bottom of this. To your utter shock, your gaze was met with a pair of familiar ocean blue eyes. Cove? You squinted. Yep, it was right outside your window. Your house was very angular, and had some parts that stuck out further than others, so theoretically it wouldn't be hard to climb around on. Still, just because somebody could didn't mean you expected it to ever happen. To his credit, Cove was doing fine. His feet was braced against a section of the wall that jutted out, his arms flexing with the effort to keep him upright. He easily lifted a hand and waved at you from the other side of the glass. You hurriedly opened the window. Cove climbed over the ledge, releasing a breath once he was safely inside. Hey, Callie. What's up, Romeo? I know it's late, but I didn't know what else to do. Something feels off. If I rang the doorbell, I know your moms would have answered and they would just make me go home. I didn't really want to explain why I was coming over anyway. I don't want to talk about it. Besides, with you, I mean... But that's why I did that. As unexpected as it was, you were touched. Cove felt like he could tell you what was wrong. I might have tried calling or something, except my dad was on the phone. Cove certainly looked very cross. Dad, he was talking to my mom. Still is, probably. You raised your eyebrows. Cove had eavesdropped on his parents' phone conversation? I would have done that too. Cove smiled at the agreement. Yeah, I don't know it a lot, but I heard them talking about me. You gonna stay with your mom for a while again? Every year, Cove was sent off to live with his mom for a few weeks, but it was usually... When it happened varied. Sometimes he would go during winter break, but usually he went during summer. Even though it was hard news when you found out he was leaving, and you missed seeing him those weeks, you understood. To your surprise, however, he shook his head. That's what I thought, too, but no. That's not what they're saying. My dad asked my mom to not have me this year. He said she could come and stay here with us. You waited for him to continue. He didn't. The conversation abruptly dropped off. You couldn't help but stare at Cove. There was a complicated mix of expression on his face. What did your mom say? She told him she would come. I know she's coming soon before school starts. Oh. You had heard Cove talk about his mom a lot over the years. He'd tell you about past memories or what happened while he was visiting her. Still, it was one thing to hear about someone and another to actually meet them. Very soon, you were going to see Cove's mom in person. You were taken aback by the news, so you could only imagine how Cove felt. You looked over at him. He was pacing your room, his features pained with dread. Before they barely stayed in the room long enough for us to have lunch, now we're going to be all together again. The three of us, after all this time? Just for a few weeks. I know I should probably be happy they can talk to each other now. I'm still not. I'm just confused and freaked out. And now I feel really bad for feeling this way. Callie, it's so... His fists tightened, his eyes became misty. I shouldn't keep getting like this. It's been a long time already, and I'm not a little kid. No, he wouldn't meet your eyes. You knew he was waiting for you to say something. There's nothing wrong with feeling bad. That is hard to deal with. Tense line of Cove's shoulders eased. Thanks. That makes me feel a little better. Like I'm not freaking out for no reason. Momentary silence fell over the two of you. You marveled at how the day started. You'd woken up eager for summer vacation, but now things seem so crazy. The mini debacle with Mr. Holden's gift, the new addition to the neighborhood being so rude, and as if it wasn't enough, now Cove's mom would be living with Cove and his dad again. Your whole life was kind of that. It just seemed complicated and hard and different. Why couldn't things just get better with time? Allie? The sound of your name said quietly pulled you from your thoughts. Cove gazed at you concerned.
Are you okay?
Are you okay? Who, me? I'm more worried about you. You don't have to forget about yourself for me. I want to listen to you too. Cove grinned reassuringly. It was small and delicate, but you knew it was genuine. He had come here conflicted and upset, only to end up worrying about you. He was really a great friend. You know, I don't want to talk anymore about this. He looked away, his lips thinning into a line. He rubbed out his arms. But I kinda don't want to go back home either. Could I stay a little longer, just doing something else? He appeared equal parts hopeful and vulnerable. How could you possibly turn him away? Of course, you can always stay here, Cove. You held his gaze confidently, hoping your words got across to him. Cove plugged up at your response, a smile appearing on his face. He immediately took a seat on your bed, not afraid to get comfortable in your room. You felt a little better at the sight somehow. You still had a lot of worries, but you were glad he was here. And not just tonight. You were glad he came into your life in the first place. That was a change you never wanted to undo. It felt totally natural to let him into your little world. That initial friendship had deepened so much over these past years, and you were certain there was room to get even closer. You joined Cove on your bed, taking a seat across from him. He smiled at you again, but you could tell this time it was half-hearted. He was still easy to read, though he didn't want to talk about his mom and his dad. He must be thinking about what happened, and that's what's about to happen. You hugged him. You moved closer and wrapped your arms around him. It wasn't much, but you hoped the contact helped, even a little. Cove rose up, startled. After a moment, his arms came up and he returned your hug. The two of you remained like that for some time. He might have mumbled something to you, but it was too quiet to tell what it was. When you pulled back, his expression had softened into something more natural. Conversation stilted and broke often by silence at first. Then the both of you were able to get into your usual candor. As your secret hangout session stretched on, you thought that you truly wanted to keep having moments like this with him. You hoped a day would never come, when life decided the two of you would have to part ways, and you knew Cove felt the same. You opened your tired eyes, groaning as they adjusted to the bright light that was streaming through your window, and warming your tanned skin. With a loud yawn, you rolled away from the sunlight, blinking a couple of times, clearing the sleep from your eyes, before realizing with a start it was actually morning. You couldn't remember even falling asleep. COVID crept through your window during the night, and the two of you spent time together trying not to wake your parents. You must have fallen asleep while you were hanging out, but couldn't put a finger on exactly when. You wondered how late Cove had stayed before heading home. You rubbed your face with a yawn, and yawned again. Oops. Contemplating whether you should get out of bed and get ready for the day, or stay snuggled up for a little while longer, until your gaze landed on an instantly recognizable mop of pale green hair, and you bolted upright and gasped in surprise. He never left. He was still there, in the morning. You laughed out loud. He had fallen asleep while sitting on the ground, and precariously leaning his head on the side of your mattress. With your laugh, Cove's eyes snapped open and his head slipped from the source of support. He didn't stop going down until he smacked right into the floor with a crack. You clamped your hand over your mouth and looked down at him with wide eyes curled up, where he landed rather ungracefully. Ow. Are you okay? He winced at his tumble and hoping no one in the house had heard either your outbursts. Yeah, I'm alright. Cove rubbed at his forehead a little, and you weren't sure that was entirely true. If either of your moms found out Cove had slept here last night, the two of you would be in big trouble. Cove blinked at you a couple of times, his eyes grown in panic, with the thought that he could... As some thought that only he could hear settled in his mind. Oh my god! I fell asleep. You weren't exactly sure what to do as you watched Cove pace your room, looking around frantically. Cove's hands flew up to his face, letting out a sigh of relief when he found his glasses right where they were supposed to be. Despite that, he hadn't calmed down completely. The atmosphere was still frazzled. Going to be alright. You just need to leave before anyone notices you're here. If they knew, we would have heard about it already. Cove nodded. His shoulders tensed as he fixed you with a firm stare with his turquoise eyes. Letting out a heavy sigh, he ran a hand through his hair in exasperation. He couldn't look at you again as he spoke. I'll see you later. You're confused by how all this played out, but hoped that it was true. Right. Bye, Cove. At that, you were suddenly wrapped up in a tense embrace. As panicked as he was, this seemed to be something he couldn't forget about before leaving. Thanks again. You're a good friend, Callie. He whispered the words into the top of your shoulder. But you were let go before you had a chance to respond or even fully react. In a matter of seconds, he had climbed over your bed and opened the window. A cool breeze rolled off the ocean, fluttering through Cove's hair and filling your room with its salty scent. Cove fearlessly stepped down onto the ledge. You wished him luck. Good luck. Be super careful. You weren't sure if he heard you or not, but he kept going, one foot in front of the other, with increasing speed until his form disappeared out of sight. You stuck your head out the window as far as it could go to try keeping watch. He walked the full length of the ledge before jumping down on top of the garage, then lowered himself onto the fence. From there he finally dropped down to the ground. He threw out a thumbs up his successful climb. He ran off towards his house without stopping, disappearing behind the side of another building. I have to admit, you were pretty impressed with how doable he made that look. With a little sigh, you reclosed your window, deciding there was nothing more you could do. You hopped off your bed and got ready to head downstairs for the day. You put on your slippers. You knew it was summer, but your slippers were comfortable and cozy and made you feel better whenever you wore them. You took the stairs, slowly attempting to mask your face with a look of innocence. You were sure that someone would have come into your room if they had heard anything strange, but you couldn't be too careful. You had to play it cool. When you stepped into the living room, Elizabeth was there, tapping her fingers on the counter. Good morning, Elizabeth. You looked over immediately, her eyes squinting at the greeting.
Why?
Why are you being so weird? You hadn't even done anything. Your big sister never missed a beat, unfortunately. You turned and offered a tight smile. Her lips pursed together even tighter. Allie? You shrugged it off. I'm not. You spoke so nonchalantly, you almost thought she believed you, but you knew better. Further suspicious squinting occurred, as she waited for something. But ultimately she rolled her eyes, and you weren't sure if you were in trouble or not. But she didn't seem to care enough to dig any further. Whatever. And then she walked straight out the front door, let it slam shut behind her, and you let out a brief sigh. Elizabeth went out most days to hang out with her friends from school around town. Today you were extra glad for it, though you were grateful she hadn't left the house any sooner and risked running into Cove. It looked like you were getting away with that. Breakfast was eaten in peace alone. Your moms were both out by the time you'd gone up. They had left you a serving of food from breakfast they made. Hash browns, an omelette, fruit salad. There were a few sausage links. You took a little bit of everything. It was tasty. You appreciated there was variety in the meals your moms made. The day lazily drifted by at home, and eventually your parents returned. You pulled the fridge open again, lingering in the frosty air for a moment or two before grabbing a bowl of ice-cold water and taking a long drink. It was perfect, balmy summer afternoon, and you decided to head outdoors to find something to do. You hadn't decided what that something was just yet, but you were sure something would pop up to occupy your time. As you were heading out the front door, you paused for a moment. You hadn't seen Cove since he left that morning. You couldn't help but thinking about what happened to him. Would it be bad to go over to his house right now? Or to call and check on him? You stepped out of your house, still stuck in the eternal debate with yourself, when a voice caught your attention.
Hi.
Hi, Callie! Confused, you look over to where the unrecognizable woman was waving at you, a friendly smile plastered on her face. You racked your memory for where you might have seen her before, but nothing came to mind. Not your school or a country club where your moms took you to. You had absolutely no idea who this woman was. The woman crossed the road towards you, and you were a little unsure whether you should stay put or go back into the house and lock the door. Oops! I'm sorry, was that too presumptuous? I've heard about you, but you have no idea who I am, do you? You shook your head, and she removed her sunglasses to reveal sparkly ocean blue eyes. All of a sudden, she seemed a little more familiar. My son lives here. And my ex, too. She bent to smile. She lifted her hand to point at the condo across the street from your own house. She was Cove's mom. You didn't know why you hadn't really realized that sooner, knowing that you had gone a good look at her. She was super pretty. This beautiful lady was Cove's mother? Wow. No matter your thoughts on her, you still felt a little taken aback that she had appeared out here so suddenly. Cove mentioned she was coming, but you had got an impression it would be the very next day. Oh, but you hadn't gotten the impression it would be the very next day. She extended a hand again, this time for you to take, and you studied the manicured fingers in front of your face, and the assortment of bracelets that dangled from her wrist. I'm Kyra Priest. You can call me Kyra. You shook her hand. You reached out and took her hand, and she shook yours firmly, grinning wide. I'm Callie, but you already knew that. That I do. That I do. Cove's mentioned you to me before. It's nice to officially meet you, Callie. Cove talked to you about his mom? Cove talked to you about his mom. He hadn't mentioned how he said things about you to her. It's nice to meet you too. She smiled at you fondly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. The sound of a door opening and closing caught both of your attentions, and when you turned towards the sound, it was to find Cove exiting his house, his eyes skimming the ground. Considering how tall he had grown, you kind of figured his mom also would have been tall, but she was far more on the short side for an adult anyway. Cove's height must have come from his father.
My baby.
There you are! I thought you were going to keep me standing out here all day. You tried to catch Cove's eye as he walked towards you, but his gaze was firmly fixed on the sidewalk. When he finally crossed the road and looked up, he gave you a pitiful look. After the way he had acted last night, you knew he must be feeling pretty mixed up about this. You tried to wordlessly express that you understood. Cove and I are heading into town to grab something to eat while the snore is at work. Cove beamed at Cove and ruffled his hair, which only seemed to upset him more. You assumed the snore she was talking about was Mr. Holden. Hey, you should come with us, Callie. I'd love to get to know you better. Yeah, you should come. There was a pleading in his tone that you couldn't miss. Of course we'll run it by your parents first, responsibility and all that.
Anywhosies.
It'll give me an excuse to meet them, which I need to do at some point. It's important to be neighborly if I'm going to be roosting on the street for the time being. Anywhosies, let's go. Harry walked ahead towards your house, and you hung back with Cove, who crinkled his nose as he watched her.
Sorry.
I'm sorry about her. But I do really want you to come. I don't want it to be just the two of us. Not right now. You leaned in closer and whispered, while checking around for anyone who might hear. What happened? Did you know your dad was gone? Cove shook his head and sighed heavily. Dad was so focused on Mum showing up that he didn't even notice. I thought when I heard them on the phone last night it was something they were planning for the future. This morning Dad said it was supposed to be a surprise, and I guess I was surprised. She's gonna be here all summer. Oh. You're surprised to hear that too. Cove sighed again, even heavier. I'll go with you if you really want me to. He smiled, his shoulders relaxing a little in relief. Thanks. That'd be cool. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. The two of you headed over to where Cove's mom had just knocked on your front door and stood behind her. Mom answered the door after a minute, her eyebrows lifted in surprise at the group she found in front of her. You realized that, like you, she would have no idea that Cove's mom was hanging with you. However, after blinking at the woman a couple of times and looking between her and Cove, the realization seemed to strike on her. Hello there, I'm Pamela.
I see.
I see you've met my kid Callie, and I'm guessing you already know Cove for a while. Harry laughed, and you and Cove exchanged looks at your parents' weird style of humor. I'm Cara Priest, Cove's mom. Nice to meet you. A head of purple-brown hair caught your eye as Ma popped up behind Mom, squeezing herself in beside her. We have company. I was wondering what all the commotion was. She grinned excitedly at Kyra. The two of them introduced themselves and shook hands.
Hello.
Hi, Callie. Cove. Cove smiled at Ma shyly, and she gestured a hand towards the living room. No use hanging around in the doorway. Why don't you come in? I'd love to, but I promised to take my son out to eat, and I wouldn't want to hold you up with a surprise visit. Aw, I understand. You're welcome to stop by at any time.
Of course.
I'll take you up on the offer when I can. Count on it. Would you mind too much if Callie went with Cove and I? My treat. We won't be driving, just a quick walk down the road. Sure, that sounds nice.
Have fun.
I hope you all have fun. You gave your moms a quick look, and they smiled at you fondly. They were happy they were letting you go. Well, you were happy they were letting you go. You could tell that Cove really needed the support, and you were ready to be there for him.
Marvelous.
Marvelous. Expect us back in an hour or two. We look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Your parents waved goodbye to the three of you as you backed up onto the street. There was the sound of the front door closing behind you. I'm pretty positive I saw some restaurants when I was in the taxi, not too far from here. Yeah, there's a lot of them around. The answer was straightforward, and the tone was curt. Cove usually was more light-hearted than that. Kara put her hands on her hips and smiled at her son. Well, you sound like an area expert. Do you have any recommendations for a place nearby? Not really. Harry pointed at him a little and turned to you instead. How about you, Callie? Want to point me in the right direction? Sure, I have a couple of favorites. You've been to a lot of places in town, and there were a couple that stood out from all the rest. There's a Chinese restaurant that me and my family go to all the time. It's my mom's favorite. There's also a tropical themed place that tries to be all sort of fancy. Both sound like a treat. I'll leave it up to you to pick for us since Cove is going through a phase over there. He huffed at her and turned his face away. The tropical themed place. Or we get Cove to contribute. Nah. The tropical themed place. Cove likes it anyway. Thank you, Callie. Will you show us the way? You nodded, taking the lead of your little group as Cove and his mom followed behind you. Together, 3 of you left the neighborhood behind. The walk was about 15 minutes, and along the way, Kyra asked a lot of questions about the area. Cove was quiet most of the time, so you ended up answering Kyra instead. Kyra explained that she lived in a large city, and she loved how peaceful and relaxing everything seemed in Sunset Bird. The restaurant was busy as usual, but luckily you were shown right to a small table. Kyra lowered herself into a chair while Cove picked the one diagonal from her, not facing her or to her side. It was awkward. Let's see. To start, what would you all like to drink? I'll get an orange soda.
Noted.
Noted. Callie? Coffee? Kyra gave you a raised eyebrow, then smiled. Iced or hot? There's sugar on the table if you want to add that, but do you want cream with it? Iced with cream. Sure. Kyra placed the order for your drinks, in a black hot coffee for herself, and it didn't take long before they were brought to the table and set in front of you. You took a long sip of your drink as you looked around the restaurant. Your small group checked over the menus, deciding what to order. Last time you came here, the dish you ordered was amazing. You wanted to order something different this time. Kyra and Cove didn't need any encouragement for this. They were totally focused on the information in front of them. Soon the meals too were ordered and the menus taken away. You glanced at the table surface, waiting to figure out what to say. Cove sank back further into his seat and avoided eye contact. He started to twiddle his thumbs while acting like this was perfectly normal. His summer feelings today were unignorable. Instead of asking to be more open questions, he brushed off. Kyra had mercy on her son and instead put her focus towards you. So, Callie, what are a few things you're into? There's gotta be something you do for fun. Especially now that you're not buried in school assignments. I'm really into Cove. Kyra let out a sudden laugh and Cove gasped beside you. It was a dramatic enough inhale that he almost choked on the soda. You shocked at the reaction. It was a truthful answer to the question. Callie! Cove whispered at you disapprovingly, obscuring part of his face with a hand, but Kyra only waved him off and encouraged you to go on. We spend time together when we can. I like it. Well, we have something in common. Kyra smiled at Cove, who didn't look too impressed by either of you in that moment. Fashion. Clothes. Understandable. I like the way fashion lets you express yourself, no matter who you are. And I write things. A fellow writer! Writing is a great form of expression, don't you think? Kyra sighed wistfully, her eyes going soft. I spend time on art. Painting. I enjoy painting too from time to time, but I can't say I'm any good at it. I create digitally. My computer at home doesn't have all the programs I need. And I'm into sports, like all of them generally. I play a lot at school, it's so nice to keep active. And music. I play the violin. It's a beautiful instrument. And oh wait, no. Wasn't the right thing I was supposed to do. I play the guitar. I'm getting really good at it. I play the piano. We don't have one at home, so I only get to practice when I go to lessons, though. And games are fun to play. I like card games. I like card games too. Maybe we can all play together sometime. Video games, I don't know much about them. Maybe you can show me sometime. And I like to read manga. I haven't heard that style, but I'm sure it's very good. Fiction novels. Me too, nothing beats piling up with a good book. Ooh, comic books. Oh, just like Co's daddy back in the day. I go to the beach and go surfing. Oh, do you and Cove surf together? Harry looked at Cove expectantly. He mumbled something non-committently and looked away again. Looking for seashells. I keep the best ones I find for my collection. I'm sure it's an incredible collection. Plays. That's very interesting. Stand-up comedy. Cool. Movies. Karen nodded her head and you guessed that she must like that one too. People. Oh, people watching is quite the unique hobby. And I hang out with people. Hey, it's nice to have friends and family to spend time with. And I still spend time studying. Studying in summer, I have to admit. I don't know a lot of people who enjoy that, but hard work is the key to getting what you want in life. You didn't say anything else. Thanks. I'm happy to learn more about you. There's so much I haven't heard. Cove leaves the details out. God, what did Cove say? What exactly did Cove say about me? Kara laughed, holding a hand in front of her mouth. I can't tell you that. I didn't come all this way to embarrass my son. Too much. Kids are delicate at this age. He laughed again, and you glanced at Cove to see his reaction. He was uncomfortable. He was trying not to pay attention, but you could tell he was uncomfortable. Hoping it would clear some tension. In the air, you decided to ask Kara a few questions. Cove hadn't told you much about her, and you were curious to know more about this woman who was such a big part of his life. So what do you do for work? I'm a travel writer for magazines and things. I keep people in on the loop, what's worth seeing. It's good work. Wow. What do you like to do? Spend time with my little boy, of course, and traveling. A real shock, huh? I'm actually not going to ask about the divorce because we will learn about that in a later step. So, yeah, we need to be more adult here to learn about it. Where do you live normally? Nevada. Have you ever been there? You shook your head. It's a beautiful place. Check it out if you can. You can bring yourself to ask another question. It didn't seem to bother her that the conversation dropped off. Cove sipped his soda angrily, slapping up the remaining drink with furrowed eyebrows. He looked ready to run straight out of the restaurant. You weren't sure if coming along had ended up making lunch better or worse. You made a silly face at him. You stared at Cove until he glanced at you in annoyance. Then you lifted your nose with a finger and poked your tongue out. It took a couple of moments, but finally he cracked a smile that made you feel a little lighter inside.
Cute.
You two seem really cute together. Cove covered his face with his hands and leaned back in his seat.
Seriously?
Mom, why would you say that? Thanks, we are cute. Very. Your meals were delivered shortly after that, and everything was so delicious, and Cove even Cove enjoyed his food. Alright, now we're full and content. Can you explain please why you had a bug up your butt all day? Cove's face scrunched at that. Seriously, baby, what did Mom do to make you this mad? Haven't even been around a full day yet. You're at the edge of the table, refusing to make eye contact. The words he spoke were barely audible over the din of the restaurant. You could have told me. She leaned forward, not to miss anything else. Eyebrows raised. What you what? He finally seemed to find his voice and spoke the thoughts that had been on his mind. I wasn't going to visit you this year. that you were going to be coming instead. Didn't you invite me? You wanted me here with you. Cove's eyes began to shake. His frustration ebbed. I do want you around, but I didn't know it'd be like this. It's not the same and nobody said anything. I see. Her expression grew tense. She threaded her fingers together and placed her hands in front of her on the table. We've both been gifted another Clifford surprise. Referring to that as a Clifford surprise almost caused you and Cove to both crack a smile. You also had no idea his name wasn't just Cliff. Over the 5 years, nobody had ever called him Clifford until now. She smoothed her hair out, not letting go of her stern look. The more things change, the more they stay the same. They allow identical sighs, but smiled weakly at one another afterwards.
I'm sorry.
I can go home, Cove. We can still set up a normal trip to my place before the summer ends. Cove's lips tightly closed together. He seriously pondered that option.
I mean...
I think I do want you to stay. I miss it when you're not there. My heart. She reached over the gap and grabbed his face and planted a kiss on his cheek. Cove tried to wiggle away. Mom, stop. I'm sorry. Sweet young men need to be smooched by their parents. If I don't, I'll take my mom license. Kara was completely enthused by Cove's omission, though a tone of seriousness did return to her voice when the conversation continued. Did you want to talk to your dad too? No. Cove had snapped the word instantly, but reeled his annoyance back in just as quickly. Maybe later, not today.
It's alright.
I understand. We can shell them. Thanks, Mom. Thank you for talking to me, little mister. She grinned affectionately at him before turning away. And thank you, Callie. What did I do? It's easy to act like a baby with your mom, but it's harder to keep that up with your neighbor watching everything. Especially when you really care about what that neighbor thinks of you. Especially when you really care about what said neighbor thinks of you. She winked. Mom! She just ruffled his hair with a laugh. Oops. Then moved her hand down to tap the end of his nose. And with that, how the issue was resolved, at least, between Cove and his mom. When the three of you left the restaurant and Kyra had paid the bill, you walked back to your neighborhood slowly. You had eaten so much by the time you began to feel sleepy. But that didn't help that lunch had happened late and the sun was already beginning to descend from the sky. But eventually you reached your street. Someone was there to greet your group upon arrival. Welcome back, family! And Callie too.
Huh.
Cliff. Dad. The two walked past him into the condo, without sparing another word. Despite the summer heat, their shoulders were cold. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. He rubbed the back of his neck with a crooked smile, but his eyes were soft as he looked on after them. He's so much like his mom, don't you think? You gave a vague nod, not exactly sure what he was expecting you to do. He looked back far more energetically. Okay, have a nice night, Callie. You too, Mr. Holden. With that, co-star disappeared to join the others inside. It was your turn to go home now. Summer hadn't started off how you'd imagine it would have, though it turned out to set the tone well. Having Kyra in the neighborhood was a new experience, not only for you and Cove, but also both your families. But a dull moment was rarely had. And there we have it! We are now on moment 2. These are our DLCs. And, we're going to be doing dinner last. Mostly because we have a lot to be getting through with, and I'm going to make a separate playlist for Derek's DLCs. So whenever we have just a Derek moment, he's going to have his own little playlist. And obviously it's still going to be connected to my current playlist I think I made for our life. So he'll still be in this one as well as his own one, just to be separate if people just wanted to watch my playthrough with Derek. Though I will say the soiree... Soiree? No. Sorry? I don't know how to pronounce that word. My mouse just seemed to have disappeared. Hang on a sec. Okay, found it. Found the mouse! I'll save it again later. You guys can... You should have been able to read that anyway. There's nothing else there. Soiree, maybe. Soiree? Who knows how to pronounce that word? Soiree. The soiree won't be happening with either Derek or Cove because I want to introduce you guys to a new character that is in step 2. So I will be rejecting both of them, but do know that I have gotten both Cove and Derek in the soiree. I'm also going to be doing road trip second to last, just because I feel like that's a nice way to end it, and I will be pairing some stuff up again like I did at the end of step 1, just so step 2 is not massively big. Though Derek's DLCs will be their own separate videos. Obviously minus the soiree, because I can only do that once. There are some things like that that can only be done one way or another. So, yes. To start things off in step 2, we will be actually doing birthday. And then summer work. Just to get the 2 boring things out of the way and done with. And then from that, I will figure out what I'm going to do. And then obviously, we're going to have our transitional video, since that is going to be the longest one, by ending step 2 to 3. That is how I'll be doing it. And then for step 4, the end of step 4 anyway, like the optional things with the DLCs, I'm going to actually do 3 separate videos. I'm going to have a pre-save file, and then go and do the 3 separate saves, and show you guys the different endings that we have, including Cove's wedding. We're gonna do Cove first because that's the non-DLC, and then we're gonna go down both DLC routes, going Cove, Derek, Baxter, instead of Baxter, Cove, Derek, which is alphabetically, or Derek, Cove, Baxter, which is how it's put. I just wanted to show the non-DLC thing first, because then that has a DLC, which is going to be the longer one, and I'm going to probably lose my voice midway through it. So, yeah, this is what my plan is going to be. We're going to be coupling stuff up since, wow. There's like 8 on this page, maybe? No. 10 on this page. I can count, I swear. So, there'll be 2 per episode, ending with road trip dinner. Then, obviously, we've got these 4 to do. So yeah, I hope you guys like my little plan that I'm going to be doing from now on. And just to explain what's going to be happening with step 3 and ending step 2. Just like we did with this one, because obviously it's a big video, because we ended step 1, transition into step 2. These things are always going to take a while. I'm also pretty sure my voice is slightly going, so I'm going to end here now, rest my voice a bit, and then do some recording while I still can. And I'm also going to go walk some dogs. So, yeah, that's my plan for the rest of today. Not doing any editing on any of my videos. No, I need to work on my Halloween one. And just, this is a perspective of my editing, not my editing, my recording thing. Like, this is all being done in October, but it's not going to be, obviously, in October. This is a different month. Crazy. Right, I've kept you guys here for far too long. Bye for now, and I hope to see you guys again soon.